So, how did you come up with the Jacksonville Rays series? And did you have an outline for the whole series when you started to write that one night, or did you find the
Yeah.
story, like the series, along the way?
Yeah. So I have been reading hockey romance since around like 2020, really like around it was during the pandemic when I got my first Kindle and I got my first subscription to Kindle Unlimited. So that would have been back in, early 2020. And so I had been voraciously reading hockey romances and thought they were so much fun. So I read like Helena Hunting, S.J. Tilley, Samantha Whiskey, um several other writers. And so in my head, I always thought, wouldn't that be fun? Like the idea of writing, because I was much more familiar with fantasy series where
Hmm.
it would be the same characters that you read through 6 books. And
Hmm.
I loved the idea with the hockey romance of different characters, same universe across 6 books. Because it's like it just felt like such a fun way to build out your own universe, but then as the author get to play, of it's like do the different dynamic racial relationship dynamics. You could do the nanny and the player, you can do boss's daughter, you can do, and like have fun, and you can have like the energy can be different across the books and the vibe, but it's all connected in one universe and you are the master of that universe. And so I was like, man, wouldn't that be fun? But I just kind of logged it away as I was working on some other projects. And then it was fall of last year. And so hockey season was underway, the NHL season was underway, and I followed, a bunch of the NHL teams, and it actually was a TikTok from the Seattle Kraken, and it was one of their TikToks that was about equipment manager. And so it was like the equipment manager like changing a skate blade and then watching as the player like skated off. And it literally felt like a coconut on the head moment of it's like I watched this TikTok and then it's he's just like he's like a guy like in his 50s, like not like this heartthrob character. It's just like an equipment manager changing blade, guy skates away. But I was just like, oh my god. It's like he's an equipment manager, because I by that point I had read so many books and all of them would be the player with someone else. So the player and the nanny or the coach's daughter or the team statistician or, I read a bunch of different ones of these stories. I had never read an equipment manager book. And I was like, oh my gosh, one of them's going to be an equipment manager. And then it's like, as I'm watching the equipment manager watch the player skate away, I'm like, and he's secretly in love with him and the player doesn't know it and they're best friends. So it's like, and so it's like this coconut moment. And I was like, oh my God, the equipment manager is in the middle of this and he's going to be the center. He's going to be queer. He's going to be in love with his best friend who's on the team. Why isn't he playing? Or like, why is he the equipment manager? They used to play in college. He had an injury. His dreams have been crushed. Now he's on the sidelines and he has to watch his friend's dreams come true and he's in love with him. So it like literally within like 15-ish minutes of watching that TikTok, I was like, it's going to be a white shoes. She's going to come in as the team doctor. The queer one's the equipment manager. By awakening for the player. I'm going to make him a defenseman. And I was like, it's white shoes. I need one more. Goalie. I'll make him finish. And then like by about 45 minutes to an hour later, I was already making mood boards. And I
That's
was making,
amazing.
and so it happened. That's how quickly it can happen, right? That was just like boom. And then the series came about as I was writing Pucking Around. I knew that I wanted to make it a series and I knew that I was going to do these interconnected standalones. So with each character I introduced, I had to be very strategic. I had to like pause. I couldn't just throw side characters in. So with each character I introduced, I had to be like, am I opening this door or shutting it? Am I opening this door or shutting it? So like to introduce J-Lo as happily married with kids. That was a choice that I made. That door is shut. He's not an
Okay.
avenue I'll pursue. Same with Sully and Shelby, happily married with kids, shutting that door. But I had to introduce all these other characters, and I was like, doors open or shut. What am I doing? And so that took a lot of time and building it out, and that like adds to the length of Pucking Around because it's the base book to build out this big universe. So I feel like now readers are getting it more of like, oh, okay, like we see what you're doing and we see how this world is building outwards.
Did you write that one night after then?
I wrote that one night. After all of that, I wrote that one night. So I wrote that one night in like November, I believe. So this all happened somewhere around like October, November, December when it all started to come together and I really started pounding it out. I wrote that one night as a teaser, essentially. I had a couple of my other author friends that did this, basically kind of like a newsletter hook and to build excitement for the main book. Several of my author friends have written kind of like origin novellas or prequel novellas. You give it for free and you hook people in. So I had that one night posted for free through my newsletter for like 2.5 months before Pucking Around came out. And then like right before Pucking Around came out, I took it off the newsletter. I posted it to Amazon and it like basically like 2 weeks in the lead up to posting Pucking Around live. But yeah, the whole point of that was it just seemed like a fun way, one, to hook readers in and give them the spice up front, because I knew once I really got into Pucking Around, it was going to take a little bit longer to get to the spice. And for some readers, especially with why choose readers, it's like if they don't fuck on page one, you've lost them. You've lost the readers. And so this was a way that it's like, God, give them 15 minutes and they'll be fucking. I promise you. Um, but then you have to wait. So then you've got that energy that with Pucking Around, we had to build it out a little bit before we get back into the spice. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I was trying something different. I was following kind of a model that some of my other friends had used that had brought success for them and for their series, to kind of launch a series.
It
So you
definitely
mentioned,
worked.
yeah, it did. So you mentioned that you read a lot of hockey romance, and
Mhm.
like based on the books, you seem to have like a very good grasp on the inner workings of the game and behind the scenes. So are you
Yeah.
a fan of hockey, and were you a fan of hockey before writing about it?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I was a fan of hockey. I would say that I am much more knowledgeable now than I was. I was a much much more casual fan of hockey. I would say I was more a fan of hockey romances than I was of hockey. Um, but I did. I think that's part of kind of like the teacher in me or the research in me, like the that you can take the professor out of the university, but you can't take the professor out of the professor is like usually the lame thing that I say. So I love the research element of it. So whether it's me, meticulously researching Regency era menus, so like all of the food items that are in my books are like those come from real menus that were served at dinners in the Regency era, whether it's like details like that or wallpapers and wallpaper designs or fabrics for clothing to the inner workings of an NHL team and equipment managers and whatever. Like I've had quite a few people in the hockey world like call boo and point out absolutely everything from the smallest of possible details that I got wrong, to larger details. It's like I'm not trying to write like a memoir of my time in NHL. That's not what this is. Um, but I did watch a ton of hours of YouTube footage. In particular, all the teams have behind the scenes YouTube footage that's really helpful. I followed all of their TikToks. I went to games myself, whether it was mainly minor league games. But yeah, you just kind of dive in and immerse yourself and get a feel for the environment and some of the lingo and stuff like that. Um, Even that was funny. I broke a Facebook group for a while there where we there was just this person that was beside herself, ready to, I think she did DNF my book because she was so upset that I called them hockey pants instead of breezers.
Oh my
And
god.
like she was
Oh.
just beside herself and she's like, I'm so uncomfortable. I have to DNF this book. Um and then it was like this comment section. just became so completely unhinged. And it's the kind of thing that it's like, you guys, if I'm a member of this group and it's about me, Facebook's gonna like double ping me. They're gonna keep telling me that this is happening.
Oh
And so I was
god.
just watching this comment section, and it was unhinged, the way that people were like going to bat. Like, this was the hill they were ready to die on, was if it was called hockey pants or breezers. And I
Oh
was just like,
my.
this is bananas. It is both, by the way. It is regional. It is regional as to whether you call them hockey pants or breezers. And hockey pants is the more commonly accepted one across all regions. Anyway,
So
it was
there.
There you go.
hopefully, but yeah. So it's like, you're always going to find someone who, I promise you, knows more than you about whatever it is that you're writing, and they will tell you. Like, they will tell you everything you got wrong. Um, yeah, it's funny. It's funny, some of the things that people will like, the hills they'll die on, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is fiction. Like, you realize if I did it your way, we wouldn't have a book, because like, you need, like, forced proximity is a necessity. The characters have to be in the same room. They have to be sitting together on the plane. They have to be, whatever.
Right.
Like, that would never happen. Dream with me, won't you? Like, yeah, it's funny. It's like, come on.
That's so difficult. I know a lot of people just can't disassociate with that. It's like,
Yeah.
this is not real.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so hard, is it's like, this summer was so tough, because it was kind of just like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If it's like, on the one side, people are saying, you don't know how to separate fiction from reality. And on the other side, you have all these people, like, literally their entire account is reviewing hockey books for their inaccuracies. And so it's like, if you're going to do it, you have to do it right. But then you have all these people that it's like, no, because it's too close to fact. This needs to be fiction. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, what do you want from me? Like, do you want fact, or do you want fiction? I'm
Right.
trying to write fiction, and as I write fiction, you're decrying it as not being factual enough. Yeah, and so it's like, I'm purposely trying to write this as fiction. I'm trying to keep it as abstract as possible. And so every critique that you give me, showing me how I got facts about the NHL wrong, is like, okay, like, it's fine. It is what it is. But it was a very odd echo chamber to be in, of like, what am I doing? Am I
Right.
writing this as factually accurate as possible, or am I writing a work of fiction that is clearly meant to be an abstraction of reality?
So with Fucking Sweet coming
Yeah.
out around the corner, which is Poppy's story, and now we're gonna have 3 leading ladies,
Yes.
Rachel, Tess, and now Poppy. Who do
Mhm.
you relate more with?
I would say it, at the current moment, since it's hard for me to talk about a character that's like, you guys haven't read as much about. I would say between Rachel and Tess, I'm definitely a Tess. Between the two of them, I would say between the three of them, I'm probably some kind of I don't know. Like, once you add Poppy into the mix, I'm a weird kind of mix of all three of them. I tend to identify much stronger with my men. But yeah, Poppy, I think what I'll vibe with Poppy, I'm a Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon, Libra rising, and Poppy is a Libra. And so that feeling of like, I'm definitely going to be feeding into Poppy a bit, this feeling of like, everything's good. Like, everything's good, everything's perfect. Like the duck, the classic image of the duck treading water, and so she's gonna have her act even more together than I do. Like, she would never come on this without her bra on. I would, but so she's just like perfect. She's been raised to basically be the perfect Southern belle, perfect manners, president of her sorority, goes and gets her MBA, flawless, so she's always put together. There's never problems, feathers are never ruffled, right? And what we'll see is like, she's gonna have her Libra moment, as so many Libras do, where it's like those scales tip. And when she loses that control, when that scale tips for her, the chaos takes over, and so it's like, she's gonna she's gonna make some choices, right? She'll make some choices, and it'll be chaotic, and it will be the process of her trying to find that balance again, or realizing like, maybe being unbalanced is a little fun, or like, maybe I can let go of this a little bit. especially once we understand that she's actually like the black sheep of her family. And so that will be interesting to like unpack like Perfect Poppy. Like, what are you talking about? Perfect Poppy is the black sheep. Like, I want to meet this family, and you will, it's like,
Cool.
what's going on that she's sitting here feeling like she's the problem child, um, as this perfect Libra. So yeah, it's going to be fun. But yeah, I feel like I identify with all of them in different ways, but it's also hard for me to write the women. I like writing the men. I think book 4 will be fun because it will just be 2 guys, and that's going to be a totally different vibe.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Book 4 will be another.
I
We're
can't
all
wait for
immediately like,
that.
"Ooh, these two guys."
But then I'll have to pay for it afterwards because then book 5 will be FFM. So like I skipped out on an FMC for book 4, and then I'm gonna toss in another one for book 5. So
Cool. Big old challenge for that then.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yep.
yeah. So there will ultimately be 5 FMCs across the 5 books, but one will not have an FMC.
Okay, I'm so
Super
excited for
excited.
Yeah, I
all of
can't wait for
these.
that.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I love an MM dynamic. I'm like absolute trash for, especially if it's like basically anything Neve Wilder writes. It's like I'm trash for it. But so it's like uh slow burn, pining, angsty, especially if it's like friends to lovers vibes. Like, do not give me friends to lovers with an MF. I'm so bored so fast. But if you make them I'm like, I will read this for 200,000 words. And like it can be like a slow turning look they give each other at a party, and you'll hook me. But yeah, so that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be slow burning. Book 4 will have a little bit more of a pining, right? Pining slow burn, but it's gonna still be spicy and still be a lot of fun, and it'll still fit the universe. um but that's what's fun about writing these interconnected standalones, is like you get to make each book its own thing, but have it feel like it fits that world, and all the characters are still in each other's books. So that'll be fun.
Yes, love seeing that with all the
Yeah.
characters showing up later in the books.
Yeah.
Even if they're
Yeah.
like small parts, that's my favorite with these interconnecting books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like my series compared to some of these other series, like compared to like even a Helena Hunting, or like a Samantha Whiskey, mine are much more integrated. My
Mhm.
side characters are much more integrated. It adds to the length, certainly, but to have them have much more complicated arcs that are going through all of the books, that's just fun for me. I've kind of said that, like, instead of me writing these as like typical hockey romances, it's almost more of like I'm following more of like a fantasy style. So like they have like the world building and the scope of fantasy
Mhm.
writing, but in that contemporary hockey setting. Um, I feel like is kind of what I've done.
Yeah,
Like,
I can see
Mhm.
that for
yeah.
sure.
Has
I
that
see what yeah, we read Samantha Whiskey, right? With the
Mhm.
she has hockey and then it went into football too, right?
Yeah, she did some football. Yeah, because those were spin-offs. She has 2 hockey series. So she has the first hockey series is like named after skater positions. So I think book 1 is
Yes.
Grinder and
grinder,
yeah.
skater, rookie, bruiser, all that. And then the next one is the one where it's the guys' names. So that one
Yes.
starts with
Axel.
Axel. Yeah,
Yeah.
Axel. Yeah, because that's how I fell down that hole. Like one of my good friends that also reads a lot of hockey romance, she was like, "Oh, you should read Axel because he's giving me vibes for Bear," which is one of my other characters. Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
some
He
Bear vibes."
does, that's true.
Yeah,
I read
yeah,
Wisconsin, yeah.
yeah. But so it's like, "Oh, he's got the same vibes." But she didn't tell me that it was book 1, but it was book 1 in the second series. And
Yeah.
so my OCD ass, like, no, I can't start there. I might be missing something. So I had to go back, and I was like, are you kidding me? There's like 9 books in this series for me to get to the Axel book. And I did. I read them all. I
Yeah,
had
they're
like a
amazing.
crazy week where I read like literally that whole series in 7 days, um,
Wow.
to get to the Axel book. It was bananas. But then I was leaving like I was getting like more and more crazed as the week went on. and I was leaving very passionate reviews, both positive and negative, for all these Samantha Whiskey books. Like, I should probably go back and take them down. Like, now that I'm an author, like I try and like not do negative reviews. Like, if I didn't like it, I told you I didn't like it. And like not all of them were winners, but I read them all, so she still got my money. But yeah, I did read Axel, and I did enjoy that one.
I
And
see what
Canon.
you mean.
Axel and Canon are my favorite in those series. The Canon one's kind of like the Hades Persephone's vibes, and her name is literally Persephone. A little on the
That's
nose.
right.
I rolled with it.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
So speaking of one of your players, Langley, he
Yes.
is a Swiftie. Are you also a Swiftie? And if so, what era are you in?
Yes, I would say I am a Swiftie. I do love Taylor Swift's music. I love her business model. I love her career, more than just her as a musician. I think just to see what she has done for women in her industry, what she has done for women business owners writ large. I think it's really impressive. And it's impressive to see how she treats her brand. I've even been doing some of the same kind of stuff, like not nearly to the level of sophistication that she does, like things like Easter eggs or like weaving things through. So to have this kind of sense of like there's a universe that is my books, and you'll know you're in it when you're in it, and there'll be nods to other characters and other storylines, things like that. That's a lot of fun for me to just like weave those tiny little nuggets in. I would say my era right now, I think I'm listening to the most music either from on here. Oh, I've pulled several of her tracks from her Taylor's version of Fearless. So I have like Haunted, I Can See You. Oh, I do have a couple though from Midnights as well.
Love it.
Do you create a playlist for all of your books?
I do, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and I have them all on Spotify. But sometimes I'll have them like the biggest version. I think I typically do like 15 songs that I'll put on Spotify, but then on the playlist on my phone I might have like 30 or 50.
Wow.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh yeah, it's at the front of the book, right? Now that I think of it.
Yeah. Sometimes
Okay,
like with Ryan's, I did Ryan's top 5 favorite Taylor Swift songs. That's the joke that he's the Swiftie, and then put those on there. So yeah, I have like I'm looking at the Pucking Wild ones. I had like Lavender Haze, Daylight though. Ryan was definitely in his Lover era, so I had Daylight on there.
So cute.
All of the Girls You Loved Before.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
Ryan.
perfect for them.
Oh yeah.
Ryan was definitely in his Lover era. Oh, but yeah, she did Red too. Taylor's version of Red. I have like 4 of those songs on here. I don't think I'm good at picking like an era and be like, I'm stuck in that era. But there's songs that I like.
Speaking of the boys that Tess loved before, the way you wrote Troy and the dynamic of a narcissist, incredible. I mean, all of us were just like relatable.
Yep. I may have had some experience.
Same.
Like even if it's not a romantic partner, I feel like so many people have had an encounter with a narcissist, whether it's like my roommate in college or a mother-in-law or a, friend or a sibling or something. The uncle that you're forced to see a couple times a year that's like, oh my God, you're insufferable,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. It is absolutely tough. And I did draw on life experience, and it was hard to write him. It was hard to write his mother. It was cathartic though. I think it's an important storyline. I've been very touched by the people that have reached out and had something to say about it, whether it helped them kind of see the situation they were in, or it helped them move out of the situation they were in, which is it's very emotional. It's a position of great responsibility to be in. People don't often think like, oh, your local smut reader is going to be the one that provides you the inspiration to leave a toxic marriage, but that's been the case, so it's a heavy responsibility that you can have as you're putting these books out there, and people are going to read them, and people are going to take things out of them that might change their lives, so yeah, it's been humbling and gratifying at the same time.
To go to a happier topic again about music, So I'm a huge Jonas Brothers fan, and Ryan sang a very obscure Jonas Brothers song. Are you a Jonas Brothers fan? How did that come up?
So I think you're referring to I think that was Morrow, right? Isn't Morrow the one that
Oh,
sings
was he
in
Can't Have
karaoke?
You? It was Can't
Yeah,
Have You,
yeah, Can't
which
Have
is
You.
like off their like second album, and it's not a popular song. Oh, it was Morrow. Okay, I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Well,
Ryan. Yeah.
because Morrow is singing, and who's in the crowd while Morrow is singing? If we think about for his book,
Mm-hmm.
he's singing for Poppy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So yeah, so the two that I have on my playlist for them from that album is Burnin' Up and Can't Have You. Yeah, no, I mean, I would not say I'm a huge Jonas Brothers fan, but I probably heard those somewhere. Like it could have even been like sometimes as you like scrolling TikTok, and sometimes it'll even be the songs that people will use on their TikTok videos, and so it'll just be like, "You're coming home with me." I'll like download the song, and so well, because that's how like I found Steven Rodriguez. I found Steven Rodriguez through TikTok. So he does like You Mean It. That was that real popular song that was out for a while all over TikTok. The Fuck Me Like You Mean It. That was a good one. But then he also has The Devil Wears Lace. That's a really fun one. So yeah, I've found a lot of stuff on TikTok that then becomes songs that I put into my playlist.
Love it.
I just want to revisit before you were saying how your books are kind of written like in the same style as fantasy. And I was like, I mentioned Samantha Whiskey, and in comparison, I totally see what you're saying. That just like broad world building, because I'm very into fantasy too. So I can definitely see that and very much appreciate it. And I think it goes back to also what you were saying, how the characters are appearing throughout the story. So it's even kind of like building on their stories too, even in a small way. So love that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because it was strange for me at first, like the harshest, or not, I would, it's not harsh. The most common criticism that I get about the books is like they're too long, they're too long, they're too long, they're too long. Like no contemporary romance should be that long. But what was hard at first is like I was being measured against MF romances, you know, and it's like it's not an MF romance.
Right.
It's an MMFM romance. So it's like if you look at most Why Chooses, there'll be a series, you know? So like Tate James will give us 800,000 words across 4 books for 4 characters, and you might not even get sex on the page for all 4 of them until the last chapter of that 4th book, you know? It's like really, it's like these are big sweeping epics, multiple romances happening across a series, you know? And I was actually twisting that and making it so that it fit in one book because I knew I wanted to do these interconnected standalones. So it's like I was powering through 4 romances. That's 8 different dynamics in one book. So for Why Choose readers that got it, they're like, she gypped us. This could have been twice as long, you know? But for all of this whole new world of readers that I brought in, because I had so many people with Pucking Around that were like, this is my first Why Choose. This is my first Why Choose ever. And so they got kind of like a different take on why mine was a different take on Why Choose because it was so short. But that's a very weird space to be in, and that can happen when you're like mashing up categories. But then for me also it was like, well, my style is different. My style, Samantha Whiskey writes 80,000 words. There's no side plots. There's no side characters. It's very thin. It's this couple and the interactions they have as they fall in love and get a happily ever after. You can do that in 80,000 words. I was doing something different, you know? Right. And so it was hard for me at first to be like, whoa, as I was getting these criticisms of like, do they not know what a Why Choose is? You know, like that was the first to be like, how am I supposed to write 4 romances in 80,000 words? Like, what do you even, it's like, that would just be like, and we all had Insta-lust and had lots of sex the end. Like that, like you can't fit it you can't fit it any other way. And so it's like, well, it was gonna be longer. It's 4 romances. Then you add in me and my chaos and the fact that I'm more of a fantasy style writer. So yeah, it's been very strange I'm like, I'm just doing this thing, which is why I think it kind of worked in the indie market space, because it's like I just make the rules. Like I just make the rules. I write what I write and I publish it. And now, like, to have trad publishers be coming in and they're like, we can't make this any longer. Like, just so you know, it can't get any longer. And I'm like, okay, all right, like, all right. I mean,
At least you have no more with 4.
Yeah, it's like, could I have cut some stuff? Sure, of course I can always have cut some stuff. I'm sure I probably could have cut a lot out of it, but I had a good time and I left it in.
Honestly, it makes sense even more so now when you're talking about it this way, because they all kind of had separate relationships first, and then they had to come together as one. Even when she was with Jake and Kay already, and then had Elmari kind of on the side. Even in my head, I'm like, how is she going to make this work where she gets them all on board with each other? So it makes sense why it took some time to get there. We needed that fleshing out of the story.
Yeah. Well, and then people will be like, they're just having the same conversation over and over again. And it's like, it's communication. And each time you're layering in, you're complicating the dynamic. Like, so it's like they have to talk about it. It doesn't it's not realistic for them to just be like, and now Mars is here. No, they have to have feelings about it. They have to talk about it. They have to discuss it. And again, it's strange. It's strange that you can't make everyone happy. So I just have to cling to when readers are like, I am also a polyamorous person, and this was one of the most honest representations of consent and open communication I've ever read. Like, I'll take that and I'll be like, thank you, or like, this was a why choose, and I appreciated that you gave each of the relationships time. Thank you,
Yes.
But or I've even had people that they opened and the first paragraph has text messages in it, and so they were like, instant DNF. And I'm like, okay. So they're like, they didn't get past Rachel getting a text from her brother. So they were just like, no book can possibly be worth this. Instant DNF. And so I'm like, all right, you can't make everyone happy. You cannot. There's gonna be a reason that you didn't even think of, that they'll be like, no, that was an instant DNF. She texted her. Chapter 1. It's funny, the things you learn as an author. So you have to be just like water off a duck's back. It's fun to chat about in this kind of setting and be like, isn't this crazy? But I've DNF'd books for weirder reasons. Like, I'm sure probably you have too. Like, oh nope, not doing this. Instant DNF.
So the 4 of us, like I said in the beginning, we have always been huge fans of reading. We discovered our passion for reading with the Harry Potter books. That's back when they were coming out forever ago. So we wanted to know if you had a book or series that really impacted you as a child or a teenager.
Yeah, I would say one of the earliest ones, even before Harry Potter, a book series that meant a lot to me that I was voraciously devouring, was the Redwall series. So I think, again, the Redwall is like Brian Jacques. So that's the one where it's like the little animals that kind of like live in Redwall Abbey. They turned it into a TV show. But it's got a bunch of books. They were like thicker books. So for me, again, like the overachieving reader kid doing like accelerated reader program, a Brian Jacques book is like this. And so you could get, like 12 points or something if you read it and took the quiz. So I was always going for like these chunky books because it'd be like, look at how accelerated I am as a reader. But then I really just fell in love with these worlds. His world building is so beautiful. It's so magical and fantastical. I love it. Descriptions of food. Oh my gosh. Descriptions of food are amazing. So Brian Jacques is a big inspiration for me. I'd say one of the fantasy series that has meant the most to me was the Abhorsen Chronicles by Garth Nix. So that starts with Sabriel. It's lower YA, almost like middle grade to YA, like 14, maybe 12 to 14. But I probably reread it every year. It's wonderful. I love it. And I mean, I did read Harry Potter growing up as well. I think in terms of my personal writing style, I would say that Garth Nix had a deeper impact on how I think about fantasy and the kinds of fantasy that I write compared to Harry Potter.
So who are some of your favorite authors, rather it have been back in the day or currently?
Yeah. Favorite authors, I feel like it's changed for me now that I am an author, because I think about authors so differently now. Kind of like what I was saying about Taylor Swift. It's like I can enjoy her music, but the author side of me enjoys the branding and enjoys the business and enjoys that, so it's like the same thing has happened to me with authors. So there's authors that it's like I enjoy their books, and then there's authors that it's like, man, that their branding is good, amazing, or like that I'm aspiring to follow in that path. So I'd say one of my favorite authors in the fantasy game is probably like Naomi Novik. I really love her stuff. Especially I love like Uprooted and Spinning Silver, the idea of these like one and done fantasies. Because I feel like for a long time it was like the series and you had to buckle in, and maybe they die and they don't finish it and you're devastated. Naomi Novik is like one book, there she is, take it and read it. And so it's like, oh, that's amazing. So it'd be these little contained universes. So I like Naomi Novik. I really like, in terms of a YA author that has started to go into the adult space as well, Adrienne Young. And I really admire Adrienne as well for the work that she does in terms of building out a brand, building out an identity, building out a readership, right? And a loyal fan base. Adrienne is a great one to watch. Some of the others that are more in like the spicy romance side that I really have been like, they got it going on, and they are very organized and efficient and building out a brand, and they have good content, would be Elsie Silver. She's a friend of mine. I've been like trying to make her a friend of mine. I'm like constantly in like, DMs and hanging out or whatever. It's like, talk to me, give me your wisdom. So Elsie Silver, great. She has her book releasing tomorrow, the last in her Chestnut Spring series, Hopeless, that comes out tomorrow. Check it out, Bo's book. So yeah, Elsie Silver. Sarah Kate. I think Sarah Kate has
love
also
Sarah
done
Kate.
an excellent job with the branding and everything she did with the Salacious Players Club, building out a brand, going trad, right? So both Sarah and Elsie were indie authors, started their careers indie, and are now moving trad. I'd say I'm like about 6 months to a year behind them, but like following in that process. Katie Robert is another one that it's like gold standard of starting indie, building out empire, going broad, going trad. So yeah, there's a lot of authors out there that I both like their work and I like what they're doing in terms of building out a business. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see all of these girl bosses, like these women writing these books, building out these careers, having 6 and 7 figure careers, getting picked up by traditional publishers, going global. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Sarah Kate's book is also coming out tomorrow.
Yes, I know. It's like what are people are calling October? It's like Book-a-Geddon or whatever. Of like all these amazing books are coming out. Speaking of hockey and speaking of why choose and books that deserve attention, also tomorrow, Kristen Granada's book is coming out. It's called Odd Man Rush, and that's an FFM book. And I love Kristen. I was just at a con with her this weekend. And so yeah, she's doing an FFM book. It's gotten great early reviews. Her ARC team just ate it up, but it's been very interesting because it's sparking a lot of, I think, really, really important conversations about how we constantly hear from our readers that they want FF content. The sales figures do not reflect that, right? So like even for me, I, as a queer person, I am determined that I want to write an have more FF representation. I put my FFM book as the last book in my series because I know it will not sell as well as the other books in my series because it is just the standard that you keep telling us you want it and then you don't buy it. And so if there are people that are out there and they are doing honest, good, spicy, fun representations of FF content, we need to support it, right? If, like you're telling us you want it, you got to go actually buy it. You got to go buy it. You got to review it. You got to like it. You got to share it so that we as queer authors that want to write this stuff feel empowered to actually write it, right? Because it's our livelihoods. So that'll be my little plug there. Kristen's book is out tomorrow. FFM, it's gotten great reviews. And I'm really
added it to my TBR as we've been talking.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. And And I think there should be a couple of others earlier in the new year that should be coming out that have some more FF content as well.
Sarah Kate's book is also FFM. I'm reading
Yes,
the arc of
Sarah
it right now.
yes.
It's really good.
Yeah, Madam, yes. Yes. So that's good. So I think honestly, Katie Robert has been a big game changer of like with her Dark Olympus series, even in terms of polyamorous representation, FF representation, because she started that Dark Olympus series. It was like MF, 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 MMF, MMFM, open polycule nut. Now we're to like FFMM poly puppy play. You know, she's like, as she's going through, she's like, I'm gonna do exactly what the fuck I want, and you're gonna read it. You know, so like, yes, you know. So that's been really fun to see that she's pushing that needle right in the traditional space, especially, so that someone like Sarah Kate can step in and be like, buy my books. And the trad market is like done. And so she's been doing the same thing, like with Give Me More, that was really big. Sarah Kate's Give Me More, that was MMF. But the fact that it was such a spicy book and the content took up so much of that book. Game changer for the traditional market. I think it's really exciting. I think they honestly, I think they did help open the door for me to walk in with my MMFM and be like, would you also like this? And they're like, yes, you know. Yeah. So that'll be fun to see my quirky, queer, overly long, polyamorous hockey book set in on the shelves of like my local Target. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of books, do you have a favorite book or series?
The one that I typically go back to is like a cop out. It's just like, oh, from my childhood, the Abhorsen series from Garth Nix. I'm trying to think of a series that I was reading most recently that I really got into. I think the world building is taking a little too long for me now. I'm starting to be like, come on, I need more in the big picture to happen. Is the Naga Bride series by Naomi Lucas. So it's a sci-fi romance series featuring snake centaurs. So it's like man on top, snake on bottom, aliens, like dystopian book. Is really cool though. I got into it because I read do you guys read any Tiffany Robert? Do you do any like monster alien romance? Tiffany Roberts did they did Ensnared. That might be the popular one you know of, where he's like the spider alien. I remember that. It's so good though. It's a really good series. It's really good. But yeah, so I will read anything as well. I will read a sentient door book. I will read Shakespeare's Regency Omegaverse book. I will read Spider Centaurs. You can hook me. You can hook me with good character art. You can hook me with a good blurb.
So before we close out the interview, we want to play a game with you that we usually play when we do our reviews of books.
Okay.
So it's the Fuck, Marry, Date, and Friend Zone. And the characters are going to be Kay, Jake, Mars, and Langley.
Okay. Fuck, marry, date, friend zone.
Yes.
Yep.
Fuck is going to be Caleb.
Okay.
I will get along best with and want to marry Mars. I will date Langley. I will friend zone Jake.
Yeah.
Those are exactly my answers.
Exactly my answers too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised on the fuck, since you said you don't like the daddy thing.
I wouldn't call him daddy, but yes, that would be. I feel like that would be fun. I could flip it as well. I feel like, well, because like Caleb doesn't really date, like that's not his vibe, and so, but I could flip it. I could have a lot of fun. Fuck Langley, still marry Mars, date Caleb, but I feel like I don't really super date either. So our dates would just be like us not dating and probably just fucking, you know. Because it'll be like, well, what do you want to do? Nothing. What do you want to do? You want to get Chinese? Okay, then we'll fuck. You know, like. So yeah.
Love that.
And the last thing we wanted to know, you mentioned along the way, you know, Pucking Sweets coming out, and I think you said you were working on the next volume of Pucking Ever After. Are there any other projects you're working on that you want to tell us about or can tell us about? I know you're kind of tied on that, but if there is anything you can share.
But yeah, so no, yeah, definitely by the end of this year, there will be another volume of Pucking Ever After that will be out. I'm very excited about that. That will include some more Happily Ever After content for Rachel and the gang, and then also Tess and Ryan. And then Pucking Sweets will be out in the spring of next year, is the plan. If I can get the extended version of Lemongrass out, I would love to do that as well. Maybe like around like Jan Feb. So for those that don't know, Lemongrass was a 5,000 word piece that I wrote for the Queer and Cute anthology that came out this past summer. And that is the meet cute story for Harrison and Somchai. So that's Rachel's twin brother. So she's out in Seattle going to their wedding, and so this is like 3 years previous we get to see when Harrison and Somchai meet. I want to extend that out into a proper novella, so give it more of like 30 to 40,000 words, kind of like the length of That One Night. I would love to get that out the door, but we're just gonna have to see. Things are a little tight because I'm also doing edits for my adult fantasy debut for the Trad Space. So that's a project that I've been somewhat tight-lipped about. But yeah, I have to get that finished up. Yeah, so it's gonna be kind of a weird year of like you're gonna hear about like hockey, adult fantasy, hockey, the other adult fantasy, more hockey, as I kind of finish out the Jax Rays series and get these other books out the door and move in. But it'll be fun. It will definitely be, there's something for everyone in the Emilyverse. So if you're not into the hockey, give it a minute, like Florida weather, right? Like wait 5 minutes and there's going to be something else that you can enjoy.
That's
just
true.
give me a minute and it won't be hockey anymore.
I will say that when you mentioned fantasy, you said you got vampire living back in your brain over here, so now my brain is hoping for a vampire fantasy.
Yeah, well, no, so I do want to do whether there's a vampire in it, but the main character won't be a vampire. I am so obsessed with this idea for a monster romance series, kind of more paranormal than monster. But yeah, I'm just I want to write it so bad. But my main character would be a wraith demon, so kind of like a Dementor vibes, like a wraith. And yeah, it'd be so much fun.
Congratulations so much on just making the switch full time to be able to do this. I know it is kind of like bittersweet, like you were saying, but that's so great.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot of stress, when you feel like you don't know what you're doing and you're just making it up as you go along, and there's not like a great book that's been written that's like, here's exactly how to succeed and definitely not fail at this, know.
Right.
So it's just like, oh man, it's scary. It's scary to put yourself out there and have your family tagging along for the ride, and I'm just gonna keep going and keep writing and keep pretending like I know what the heck I'm doing. Making it look easy when it's not.
You have all of us in your corner too. You have a ton of supporters. I know you see all over TikTok, all over your group. We love you. We love your writing. We'll read your laundry or grocery list, not laundry list.
No, it's been so great. I feel like I have been so blessed in that department. Of my reader groups are so great across the apps, and because you hear horror stories, and even some of my readers are like, I'm in other groups that just are miserable, or catty or dramatic, or and so I'm so grateful that across my groups it's just been like, vibes are good. Like vibes are good. We're here for the joy. We're here for the fun of reading. That's meant a lot, that I feel like I have those safe spaces that I can go on the internet and be like, you're all just so nice, so that's good that you can escape into those places and just vibe and just have a good time.
Definitely. Well, we could honestly sit here and keep you on for like another 2 hours, because we could be like asking you questions all night. We appreciate so much for you coming on to join us, and giving us all this background information. Like, my face hurts from smiling.
Same. Me too.
Thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to ask you 50 questions.
No, absolutely. I love this medium. I love podcasts. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to tell stories and meet new people and talk about books and life and living of it and all of it. So it's fun. Thanks so much for inviting me to be on with you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you for
Emily.
joining us.
All right,
Ooh.
besties. So we hope that you enjoyed our time with Emily, and we will catch you next time.
So buckle up, bookworms. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.